Good afternoon, everyone. We would like to welcome you and thank you for joining in today's live workshop, where we will be discussing about why your input is so important in the development of the region's RMS 2050 Metropolitan Transportation Plan. My name is Gabriela Lopez, and I will be the moderator for today. So this presentation will be broken up into three 30-minute segments, and these segments are meant to accommodate for all the participants that might be joining the meeting late or who might need to leave the meeting early during the next 90 minutes. In each 30-minute block, you can expect a presentation by the El Paso MPO planners who will be answering your questions and comments throughout. There are two ways that you can participate in this meeting. The first one is you can be watching the live broadcast through the Scout website or by joining the WebEx meeting. If you are joining through the Scout website, you may only send your questions and comments through the comment button that is on the right of your screen. Please know that if you do remain only on the Scout website, you will not be able to access the meeting chat and you will not be able to speak during the meeting. So if you do wish to have access to either the meeting chat or to be able to speak, please make sure you join the WebEx platform by clicking on the green WebEx meeting button on the right. Once you are in WebEx, please know that the meeting controls do hide when they're not in use, but you can easily access them by hovering your cursor over your screen. Everyone will be muted during the presentation portion for the purpose of eliminating background noise, but we will be watching your questions and comments, which you can send through us at any time through the chat component, which appears on the meeting controls, or if you are on the Scout website, you can also do it through the comment button. So periodically through the presentation, we will only read the questions out loud if they relate to the topic that is being discussed. But don't worry, we will be answering all questions and comments during the Q&A portion of the presentation. So if you do want us to follow up on your comment or provide any further detail, please make sure you include your contact information so that we can reach out to you with a further explanation of your comment or the question that you may have. If it is your question that we get to and you would like to speak, you may unmute yourself by clicking on the microphone and start speaking. Please make sure that if you do want to speak, your microphone is turned off. If the video and microphone icons are red, this indicates that they are turned off. So make sure that it's turned on before you speak. And we do want to encourage everyone to interact on today's call, so please do not hesitate to send your questions and comments. Today's presenters are Eduardo Calvo and Roger Williams. Eduardo is the Executive Director for the El Paso MPO. He has more than 30 years of experience in the transportation planning field, and he has planned for some of the region's high-profile projects, such as the Border West Expressway and the GoTime project. Roger is the Assistant Director for the MPO, and he has been involved in regional transportation planning for 20 years in El Paso and has managed multiple long-range transportation plans. So having that said, Eduardo, I will hand the meeting over to you.
All right. Thank you, Gabby. Thank you very much. And thanks to everybody for joining into this public meeting. It's a challenge to conduct these meetings under this setting. And at least on my end, I apologize anticipatedly if there are barking dogs and some weird sounds coming in as background. But this is the new reality of these meetings. All right, so let me start by explaining very briefly what MPOs are and what we do. As you see there on the slide, first of all, MPOs are created by federal law. And also the law says that every urbanized area with a population of 50,000 or more must have an MPO. So our MPO, as you see there on the map, covers all of El Paso County in Texas, and then small pieces of Doña Ana and Otero counties in New Mexico. So again, that is as defined by the census what the El Paso urbanized area is. Some of the duties or the main duties that MPOs carry out. First of all, we perform all the transportation planning activities within the MPO region. And also, very importantly, we program all the federal, state, and local funding for projects that are executed within our region. Next slide, please. All right, so what is the MTP? The MTP is one of the documents that the MPO prepares. It's one of the most important documents. So the Metropolitan Transportation Plan, or MTP, is what we are in the process of preparing now. And we have named it the RMS 2050 Metropolitan Transportation Plan, or again, MTP for short. So the MTP is a document that looks at 20 years into the future, at least 20 years. And it looks at and tries to forecast the future transportation needs of the region, and also providing solutions for those needs that we see will be necessary there in the future. The solutions that we're talking about that we program in the MTP can be in the form of projects like new or expanded highways, public transportation services, bike and pedestrian facilities, and all that. But it also can, these solutions can also take the form of policies that somehow encourage different travel patterns of all of us that live in this region. So a lot of money, billions of dollars, are actually programmed in the MTP from various sponsors that include the state departments of transportation. In our case, both TxDOT and New Mexico DOT program their projects in our plan, but also includes cities, the counties, and other groups that are able to sponsor transportation projects. Next, please. So one of the key elements of all the work that the MPO does is public involvement and public participation. But very specifically, why is it important for the public to participate in the development of a new MTP? Like I said before, billions of dollars are programmed in the MTP, and most of the money is coming from the taxpayer, from all of us. You know, we all pay taxes, mostly at the fuel pump, but also other taxes that are dedicated to fund transportation projects. So that's one of the reasons why it's important for the community to have a say in how these monies should be spent. Again, the MTP should reflect the values, the desires, and more importantly, the vision of the residents of this region. Finally, let me say that public comment really is assist decision makers in choosing projects and making the final decisions. The Transportation Policy Board is really the ultimate decision maker body for anything that the MPO does. You know, Roger and I and the rest of the staff, you know, we're staff and we work for the policy board of the MPO. But again, the decision makers, which is the Transportation Policy Board, will always take into consideration anything that we learn from all of these public involvement activities like this meeting. So with that, welcome again to this meeting, and I'll turn it over to Roger.
All right, thank you, Eduardo. So what I'm going to do here over the next 5 to 10 minutes is take you through a brief overview of what you can expect when you go to the online and on-demand workshop. The purpose of this overview will help you when you get into that workshop site, and help you to get through there and complete the questions that are there, and 5 different exercises that will be available to you. Of course, you can stop us here if you need to make a comment, if you want to go to the chat and make a comment there, or the comment box that's available. And also, you know, we can open up our mics and we can speak to if we need to, if you need to ask a question. The workshop, the on-demand workshop, is accessible to you on the elpaso.scoutfeedback.com. And keep in mind that the workshop will be available through July the 19th. You will want to avoid using Internet Explorer. It just doesn't work that well. It's a little bit out of date browser. Any other browser will be fine. Starting the workshop is easy. As you proceed through it, which is what I'm going to do here, and and give you a little bit of a preview of what that looks like, and help you when you get in there, so that you'll be able to see that workshop available to you. Here is the first exercise. Exercise 1 is where we want to find out a little bit about you. So you tell us about yourself. We need basic information. Your zip code will help us. The modes of transportation that you use, agencies that you are affiliated with, interest groups that you are involved with, and if you're a service provider or a freight provider, are you a government employee or official, or do you belong to any of other stakeholder types? You'll notice there's drop-down windows here. You can check those boxes. You can check more than one box. You can to the next slide by hitting this continue button, or you can go ahead and advance by hitting the arrow button over here on the side. So we're still in exercise 1 here. What we're looking for now is a little bit more information about where you work, where you live, play, go to school, things like that. This is an interactive map here that you can take, click, and then come down and click to drop that little icon. Don't try to drag it. It won't work if you do that. Click, and then come over and click again, drop it on the map. Tell us a little bit where you might be going to do other activities, and where you work. Then if you decide, you know what, this isn't really what I wanted here, click on that icon again and you can move it to another spot. As you get into the next exercise here, we'll want to get a little bit about your thoughts on the current state of the transportation system. If the existing transportation system remains the same over the next 27 years, you'll be able to, and do you believe it'll be able to meet the needs created by physical, economic, and or social changes? 2050 is the horizon year for the this plan that we're talking about. As Eduardo was talking about, we need to plan for at least 20 years. So by the time we bring this plan into effect, it'll be 27 years out. So we're meeting that requirement. And what we need you to tell us is the current transportation system going to meet your requirements? What type of trip purposes within the region will not be served well by the transportation system? You can drop in any of those drop-down check boxes that are available to you. Types of modes, types of users. All of this really helps us a lot in getting information that helps us move forward with developing this plan. As we get into the next exercise, and that interactive map does take a little bit. Actually, this is still part of exercise 2. This is the last part of it here. If you have something in addition you need to add to it, drop a pin. Go in there, make a comment. You'll notice here, if you have a comment that is not specific or to any of the places on the map or anything that you think that you haven't been able to give us yet, you can check that box there, and then it'll allow you to give us comments within these other areas here. Now, as we move on to the next exercise, what we're looking at here are some criteria. These criteria, and there are 14 of them, and they're developed so that it gets straight to the point of some of the things we need to be talking about, such as safety and security. You can see there's environmental questions there. There's congestion and so on. These things are tied directly to issues and things that we need to be looking at as we move forward with developing a new long-range transportation plan. It's real simple the way it works. You can say, I really believe safety is way up there. You know, all of these things, you can say what you think they are in your opinion, slide them all over to what you think is how you believe they should be displayed here. And then it's real simple, hit the continue. And that'll help us when we get ready to rank and prioritize projects. Exercise 4 is going to talk about growth trends. You'll be presented here with a set of maps. And basically what we're trying to get to is, do you believe what we have done in our analyses is going to be accurate or not. So the first one you'll see here is a population growth map. Notice it went through the year 2045. That's because as we developed the previous plan, our analyses went out to the year 2045. But moving up with this next plan here, we're going to be going out to the year 2050. But you can still see what we've done in analyses. You can see how much we believe the population is going to grow, the areas in which it's going to grow in the region. Tell us yes, you agree, or no, you don't, and so on. And as you move through here, you'll see, for example, employment growth. You'll see here the congestion map. Click on that map and bring it up full screen. That way you can see a little bit better. It's still a bit hard to read. We understand that, but you can see basically in here, you know, where the main roads are at, where the arterials are at, and where the traffic is going to be heavy or not. And then if you do not agree with any of these maps, for example, you say, no, I don't think that, hit the no, and it's going to give you here a map that has the regions within the MPO planning area. And if you believe something is not correct, for example, you think the West Valley and the Mission Valley is going to grow differently than what you see here on this map, then what it'll do is it'll ask you then to specifically tell us what it is about those two sub areas within the region, and you can come in and say, I believe it's going to be higher throughout or lower. And then, you know, just use this map to help guide you through that. And if you don't believe our analysis is accurate, then that's where you have the opportunity to go ahead and provide your feedback. You'll see the next map is for transit, and then it's followed up by the active transportation system. Again, that one's a bit hard to see. It's good to click on it, bring it up full screen. There's the legend at the bottom. And then move on forward. Exercise 5. Now you're over halfway through the workshop now. And you know, if you need to take a break, you can certainly take a break, come back, finish it up. Don't get out though, because we'll lose all your information. It'll stay there. It'll be available to you if you need to take a break and come back and finish it up. When you get to this map here, you're going to be presented with 14 criteria we talked about earlier. Keep those in mind. They're available here for you to look at. Planning factors, these are real important to us. These are the things that us as transportation planners need to make sure that we're planning for as we move through the process. These are the FAST Act planning factors. So they're just there to help you with your answers. Again, you can drop a pin there, leave a comment. And then in here, if you agree with what we're saying, hit yes, it'll move you. Actually, if you hit yes, it's going to ask you here, are there other types of needs? And if you believe there are, it's broken down again into these sub areas of our planning area. And you can go ahead and leave us you know, say whichever one you think it is, or whichever ones you think that are not accurate, and it'll give you the ability to go in and say, I believe other things here are in need. When you get through with that one, bring it on over here. You're pretty much finished. Don't forget to complete the workshop. We want to make sure that all your comments are recorded and that you have the ability now to go ahead and get back into the back out of this part of the presentation so that you can finish up. And what I'm going to do here now is I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'm going to give the presentation back over to Gabriella and let her take you through that slide so she can explain that to you.
Thank you, Roger and Eduardo. So we will now open it up for questions and answers and dialogue. So if you're currently multitasking and maybe stepped away from the computer, we invite you to come back. We have now opened the floor for questions and dialogue, and this is your time to take advantage of the experts on the call. So please remember that if you are not joined in the WebEx meeting, you will not be able to speak and will not have access to the chat box, but you can still join by clicking on the green WebEx meeting button on the right of your screen. So we will, if we have any comments from the Scout website, we will be receiving them now to read them out loud, and we will also allow for participants to speak their mind. We will only allow for 2 minutes at a time so that we can allow for all participants to speak, and we will let you know when your time is close to ending. So if anyone does want to speak, you can either unmute yourself, or if you prefer to write your questions to the chat box, we do encourage everyone to send us your comments and questions.
And Gabby, this is Eduardo. I think also we need to remind the public out there, whoever's watching, that you can also provide any comments throughout the comment period through the MPO website. Again, Gabby, do you want to maybe mention that and provide the address for the MPO website?
Yes, we do want to remind everybody that if you want to send your questions or comments, you can also do it by sending it through the Contact Us tab in our website, which is www.elpasompo.org. And we will be providing a bit more information during the announcements after the Q&A portion.
Thank you, Gabby. This is Roger again. I also want to remind everybody that there's an online survey that you can get on that survey from our website. You will be able to get to the same questions and provide a response without going through the actual on-demand workshop. So that's available to you as well. Please choose whichever works the best for you.
So I know we don't currently have any comments in the chat box, so I'm not sure if any participant would like to speak. You can go ahead and unmute yourself, and we are open to hearing your questions and comments.
So Gabby, this is Eduardo again. I see in the list of participants that the representative Peter Schwarzbein from District 1 Council is joining us. Thank you for joining us and participate. Again, Representative, any comments that you may have that you may want to share today, or again, you can provide any comments later on in writing or email form, whatever. Feel free to do that.
Just want to say that it's really great to see this, and also looking forward to exploring a sort of online survey as well as a platform for engagement. So I'm really happy to see that there.
Right. Thank you. I guess, Roger, we can just maybe expand a little bit on the public comment process that we're following right now for this particular stage of the development of the MTP. This is really in the front end of the development of the MTP. We're focusing more on the vision. We're focusing more on the need as we move forward with a new travel demand model with new projections and all that. So this is really in the early stages of the development plan. As we go through later with finalizing the analysis, the needs assessment and all that, then we start putting projects together. We're putting a project list together based from all the requests that we get from the different project sponsors. We do a lot more analysis and all that, and then once the final product is completed in draft form, then we have a second round of public comment, and that will focus specifically on what the document is, what the document says.
That's right.
So it will be another round of a public involvement later on at the back end of the process. I don't know if you want to expand on that, Roger.
Yeah, that's a good point, Eduardo. Up front, early in the process, where we're at right now, the visioning is very important so that we can hear what it is that the public thinks it needs to, be going on out there as we develop a new transportation system. This is really that opportunity for the public to have input that makes a big difference in how we proceed in developing the plan. All of your comments will be taken to the policy board, and the policy board will be able to help us in responding to those comments. And as we move into the next phases of the public involvement, we'll be coming back out to say, this is what we've heard. This is what we're doing through the analyses, through the projects that we have received from the agencies. And we want to know, are we on track? Are we meeting those requirements, those things that we heard from the public early on? So when we get to the very end of the process, we're required to do public involvement. That means, the plan's really way into that process, and there's not a lot of time for us to go back and make changes. But we do that so that we know, did we accomplish what we were trying to do as we listened to the public early in the process. So this is where the vision comes in. This is where you're able to help us shape that plan. So this is really important at this stage, so the more feedback we get, the better. There's multiple ways you can do that on our website, through the on-demand workshop, through the survey, the comments that you see here, that we see here in the chat box. We'll respond to those at this meeting. We record all of those comments. We keep those comments so that we can make sure that if we did not address them appropriately or completely, then you need to leave us your contact information. We can get back with you. We can provide you a full response. And again, like I said, we take these to our policy board, and we make sure that everything is addressed. And as we move through that process in scoring projects or ranking projects, we always go back to say, okay, well, what was that we heard from the public? Did we hear something about this specific area that we need to be taking into consideration? So you're right, Eduardo. This is the early part of that. It's called the visioning, and this is where we need to shape that vision for the plan as we move forward.
Right. All right. Gabby, I was also going to recognize City Rep Henry Rivera from District 7, but I guess he dropped. Anyway, so well, we'll follow up with him if he decides to join.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes.
We can hear you.
Hi, I'm Lucia Nájera, and I'm with the Penrose Neighborhood Association. I'm also for Mr. Henry Rivera's area. I just needed to better understand this workshop in its entirety. Now, you're concentrating on the transportation in its all, right? On the bus times, the commute from area to area, is that my understanding? Or is it more in detail in which you all are trying to put everything together to be able to get from east to west and north to south?
No. So, and if I understood your question, because you're a little bit hard to hear there, but we're looking at everything from a regional perspective. As we develop the long-range transportation plan, and being the agency that is responsible for regional projects, we're looking at everything from the principal arterials, the minor arterials, the freeways, the interstates, the public transportation, active transportation, and anything that's got to do with the roadways and the highways as far as congestion goes. And it's a multimodal approach. We're looking at everything and how it works together, the system, if you will. So I hope I answered your question. We will be going through again here. We're about to start another block, and it explains, once you get into that workshop, we'll be able to explain to you today how to get through that so that you can give us responses to those things that we need to look at from a regional perspective. Okay, so I hope that helped you, and if you need to leave a comment, you can leave a written comment, and we'll certainly answer that and provide you a response.
And yes, you did answer my question, and I really do appreciate it. And now the items that you did, the slides that you did prior to the presentation or the question and answer, is that basically the like a survey type of thing that after our workshop we can go back in and answer that, or is it during our workshop do we do those questions or that survey in its entirety?
It's two. There's two things. There's the workshop itself, and then there's a survey. The survey is a little bit quicker to get through. It gets to the same questions and provides you the ability to give us basically the same response, but you don't have all the bells and whistles of the actual workshop. But you can do either one that works for you. So it's online on our webpage. If you want to get to the El Paso MPO webpage and take from there to go to the workshop, or it'll allow you to get to the actual survey. You can also from the workshop you can get to the survey. If you get in the workshop, you go, well, no, I'm not really wanting to go that route. I'd rather do the survey. It'll allow you to back out of the workshop, call up the survey, and it'll give you a set of questions where you can answer all those same questions that are in the workshop.
So basically, in its entirety. For example, if I have to leave right now, I can come back and review the whole thing in its entirety.
That's right. That's right. But don't shut down and don't get out of the workshop, because if you get out before you get to the final slide where you complete the workshop, then you'll lose everything and you'll have to start all over. So, but you can stop, you can go take a break, you can go have dinner, you can come back later and it'll still be there and you can pick it up. If you get through the first 3 exercises, there's a audio track. It'll tell you you're about halfway through. If you want to take a break, here's a good place. You can go take a break and you can come back and finish it up.
Great. That's really good to know and hear. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Okay, I think we're about ready to start the next block, and we'll take you through the whole thing so you can understand it. We'll be doing 2 more blocks here during this public involvement session for the next hour.
So I think, Gabby, if you want to make the announcements.
Yes. So before we do end this first block, we do want to make some announcements. We will be having another live workshop just like this one, and it's going to be July 13th at 1:30 p.m. So please feel free to invite your colleagues, your friends and family to join the workshop. The online workshop, as both Eduardo and Roger mentioned, is available 24/7. You can find the link right here, elpaso.scoutfeedback.com. And if you would prefer to bypass the workshop and prefer to do the shorter survey, it's also available there at the workshop website on the second slide. So we do want to encourage everybody to stay involved with the MPO. We do have our Transportation Policy Board meetings, which are open to the public and happen every 3rd Friday of the month. You can watch the meetings live on our website, and the links to the meeting schedule and the agendas are also available on our website. As we mentioned before, if you have any further questions or comments that you want to submit, you can also do it by clicking on the Contact Us tab in our website, www.elpasompo.org, or you can also do it by calling us at 915-212-0258. So we will now be concluding this session, but we will be starting a new 30-minute block in the next 3 minutes, so please stick around.
And again, while we get ready for the next block, again, just to explain again that we are doing these in 30-minute blocks, again, to accommodate people that may join the public meeting in the middle of a block. So for those of you that already heard this the first time, we're going to be providing the same information but you're more than welcome to stick around. And if you think of more questions later on, feel free to stay and give us those questions via the chat, or after we complete the presentation again, there'll be another opportunity for you all to provide your comments or questions in verbal form, or go to the website like Gabby mentioned a few minutes ago and provide your comments through that, or provide comments that way. So I think our timer got stuck, Gabby. There we go.
Abby, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. I'm having a little problem with my camera.
Good afternoon, everyone. We would like to thank you and welcome you for joining today's live workshop. In case you missed the previous block, we will be going over the workshop again during the next 30 minutes. And we will be talking about why your input is so important for the development of this region's RMS 2050 Metropolitan Transportation Plan. My name is Gabriela Lopez, and I will be the moderator for today. As I mentioned before, the presentation will be broken up into 30-minute segments, and these blocks are meant to accommodate participants who might arrive late to the meeting or who had to leave early over the next hour. In each 30-minute block, you can expect a presentation by El Paso MPO planners who will be answering your questions and comments throughout. There's two ways that you can participate in this meeting. You can do so by watching the live broadcast through the Scout website or by joining the WebEx meeting. If you are joining through the Scout website, which is the page that opens up when you enter the workshop link, please know that you will only be able to send your questions and comments by clicking on the comment button on your right. Please know that if you remain on the Scout platform only, you will not be able to access the meeting chat and will not be able to speak at any moment during the meeting. So if you do wish to have access to the chat and speak, Please make sure you join the WebEx platform by clicking on the green WebEx meeting button on your right. Once you are in the WebEx platform, please know that the meeting controls do hide when you're not using them, but you can easily access them by hovering your cursor over them on your screen. Everyone will be muted during the presentation portion of the workshop for the purpose of eliminating background noise, but we will be reading your questions and comments, which you can send to us at any time during the presentation by using the chat component, which appears on your meeting controls. Periodically throughout the presentation, we will only be reading the questions out loud if they relate to the topic that is being discussed. However, we will be answering all questions and comments during the Q&A portion of the presentation. If you would like for us to follow up on your comment or question or provide further detail, please ensure that you include your contact information so that we may reach out to you offline once the workshop ends. If it is your question that we get to and you would like to speak, you may unmute yourself by clicking on the microphone icon and start speaking. Please ensure that if you wish to speak, your microphone is turned on. So if the video and microphone icons are red, that indicates that they are turned off. And we do want to encourage everyone to interact on today's call, so please don't hesitate to send all your questions and comments. Today's presenters are Eduardo Calvo and Roger Williams. Eduardo is the Executive Director for the El Paso MPO, and he has more than 30 years in the transportation planning field, having planned for some of the region's high-profile projects, such as the Border West Expressway and the GO10 project. Roger is the Assistant Executive Director for the MPO, and he has been involved in regional planning in El Paso for 20 years and has managed multiple long-range metropolitan transportation. So having that said, Eduardo, I will hand it over to you to get the presentation started.
All right. Thank you very much, Gabby. Again, my name is Eduardo Calvo. I'm the Executive Director of the MPO. Thanks to all of you that have joined. You're hearing this for the second time, and there is anybody else that just joined and watching this for the first time, we welcome you to this public meeting. So let me start with a brief explanation of the MPO and what the MPO does. Well, first of all, MPOs are created by federal law. And the law says that any urbanized area with a population of 50,000 or more needs to have an MPO. And this is in order to have access to any federal or state funding for transportation projects. So our El Paso MPO covers all of El Paso County in Texas, and some small pieces of Doña Ana and Otero counties in New Mexico, as you can see there in the map. Again, the main duties of the MPO, we perform all the transportation planning activities in the MPO region. And we also program all the federal, state, and local funding that are available, all these funds for transportation projects. Next, please. So RMS 2050 MTP, the Metropolitan Transportation Plan is a long-range plan, and it is one of the documents that the MPO prepares. It's one of the most important documents because it really provides a basis for all the planning and project development activities. So these plans need to be done on a recurring basis. Our plans need to be done every 4 years. So the one that we're preparing now currently, we're calling it RMS 2050. So the MTP is a document that looks at least 20 years into the future. So in this case, we are looking at 2050, the year 2050 as our horizon year. So that's about 30 years, but by the time that we get the plan approved, we'll be looking at about a 27-year horizon into the future. So what we do with the MTP, we forecast the future needs, the future transportation needs for the region, in terms of what the travel needs for people will be in the future, and also looking at freight as well, the movement of goods. throughout the region, within the region, and in our case also the cross-border into Ciudad Juarez is very important. So we look at the needs, but we also look at providing solutions for those needs. These solutions are typically in the form of projects. Could be highway expansion projects, new freeways, new arterials, bridges, and so on. But it also could be improvements to the public transportation system. Could also be in terms of bike and pedestrian facilities. So anything that has to do with moving people and goods more efficiently is included here in the plan. But also these solutions can take the shape of a policy, that anything that encourages different traffic or travel patterns for all of us that live in this region are also included. So billions of dollars are worth of projects and policies are programmed in the MTP from various sponsors that include the state DOTs, in our case, New Mexico DOT and Texas Department of Transportation. But it also, the sponsors also include the local governments like the cities and other municipalities, counties, and other public entities that are able to sponsor transportation projects. Next, please. So why is public participation important? Public involvement is one of the keystones of our process. Again, billions of dollars are programmed in the Metropolitan Transportation Plan, and this money mostly comes from you, the taxpayer. So it is clear that as a taxpayer, you need to have a say in how the funds are spent and the type of projects that are selected for implementation in the region. So again, the MTP should reflect the values, the desires, the needs, and the vision of the people that live in this region. Also important to say is that public comment really assists decision makers in selecting projects and making the final decisions. In our case, the Transportation Policy Board of the MPO is really the ultimate decision-making body. They're the ones that will approve the final version of the MTP, and they also approve the other documents that we prepare. But again, public comment and public involvement, all the opinions, all the things that we collect during these meetings, they really help and assist the decision makers in making their choices. So with that, Roger, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, Eduardo. So what I'm going to do here, go through the actual workshop. Over the next 5 to 10 minutes, I'll be presenting that to you. So the workshop is accessible. The workshop is accessible to you on El Paso Scoutfeedback.com. Keep in mind the workshop will be available throughout July 19th, and you'll want to avoid using Internet Explorer. Internet Explorer is an out-of-date browser. Any other browser will be fine. So starting the workshop is easy. I'm going to go ahead and give you a quick demonstration here. Let me share my screen. You should be seeing the first exercise here, exercise 1. Exercise 1 is where we want to find out a little bit about you. So this is where you tell us a little bit about yourself. Give us indication where you live by telling us what your zip code is. And the other questions are very important too, as far as mode of transportation and services that you might use. There's drop-down windows here available to you. You can select more than one. We'll want to find out if there's any agencies that you are a part of, or if you're a member of any of the following interest groups. We'll have a list there for you that you can pick. You can, like I said, pick more than one. Are you a service provider or a freight provider? Are you a government employee or official? And there's other stakeholders. For example, if you're a business owner, we'll want you to go ahead and give us that information. The way you move forward in this is a couple of ways. You can hit the continue. or you can hit the little arrow button here to move forward and to move back. Interactive maps will come up throughout the workshop. This is where you give us information about where you live, where you work, where you go to school and play. Can't drag them. You have to click on it and then click on the map, click on the icon, click on the map, and so on. And then you can give us that kind of information. If you decide that, oh, that was a little bit off, click on that icon again, and you can adjust it. The main thing is you can't drag. You have to go ahead and click on the icon and then click on the map. Move forward. And you'll get into the next exercise, exercise 2. And this is where you tell us a little bit about your thoughts of the current state of the transportation system. If you believe the existing transportation system were to remain the same over the next 27 years, will it be able to meet the needs created by physical barriers, economic, social changes? And this is through the year 2050. If you believe so, or if you believe not, give us that response. What types of trip purposes within the region will not be served well in that time frame? You can give us those. There's several here. Modes. What types of modes will not be served well? Bike, pedestrian, personal automobile, and so on. And the types of users. So this is where you get the opportunity to tell us a little bit about what you think the current transportation system is going to be able to accommodate you or not accommodate your needs. So then you move on. You'll come up next to it takes a little while sometimes for these maps to load up. This is where you'll continue to give us that same information about the current transportation system, but it allows you to drop a pin and then provide a comment. You can drop multiple pins. You can provide comments on specific locations throughout that map, and then move on forward and get into this next exercise. Exercise 3 is very important for us to understand how you believe the criteria need to be addressed to rank projects. And there are 14 of them here, and it starts with safety. It's got security. It goes on to include things about environment and economic development. These are very important, and they're geared towards the things that we need to be thinking about as we work through the development of the next long-range transportation plans. Real easy. Just grab that button, pull it over, go through the 14 criteria, work your way down to the bottom, and then move on through to the next exercise. When you're in the actual on-demand workshop, at this point right here, the narration is going to tell you you're about halfway through the exercises. And if you need to take a break, here's a good time to do that. You can go ahead and break, come back, and then continue. Just make sure you don't get out of the workshop, you don't close down your computer, or you'll lose all that information from what you've already entered. As you go through this exercise, it's going to be geared towards growth trends, starting with population growth, employment, congestion. All of these maps are set up the same way. Let me here on congestion, just blow that up. Just click on the map. It's a little hard to see this one. It'll give you the analyses that we've already done through the year 2045. The easy way to read this map is if it's red, you see where the heavy congestion is at, and if it's green, it's not so heavy. So this is set up the same way as all of the other maps that we have here in this. And if you believe that the map accurately shows the expected areas of roadway congestion, for example, hit yes and continue. But if you don't believe so, hit no. And what it's going to do is it's going to pop up this map here. It's divided into different areas, planning areas. And you'll be able to say then, through this drop down here, for example, West Side, West Valley, I should say, we're talking about maybe this is not accurate in your opinion. And you then can come down to say here, because you chose the West Valley, what is it that you believe is not accurate in our map? And it'll give you the ability to say higher throughout that sub area or lower throughout that sub area, for example. Just keep in mind that you have all of these areas that are based on what you originally saw here, and you may be focused on that specific area, and you're saying no, or you can pick all the areas and you can say, I believe it's inaccurate in all those areas. You've got transit here, you've got active transportation. That one's hard to see too. You'll want to blow that up. And then you're going to move on over to exercise 5. Exercise 5 is where you tell us where you think the region is in need. You're going to have, again, a drop-down map or an interactive map. You can drop a pin. You can leave a comment. You can use the criteria to help you with your responses. You can look at the planning factors. These we use as transportation planners to develop the long-range transportation plan. This is based on the current transportation bill, the FAST Act. These are the planning factors that we are required to plan for, and you can also use those to help assist you in as you look at these maps and you are looking at what you think the needs of the region may be. As you move to this one here, if you believe there are any other types of needs in the region that should be addressed, hit the yes. It's going to bring you up again with this sub-area map, and you'll be able to go into each one of those regions and then click on that region or multiple regions, and it'll give you the ability to come back and look at those again and provide additional feedback on what you think the needs may be. Okay, and this is the last slide in the workshop. This is where you'll be able to complete the workshop, and then it'll ask you to provide some additional comments there and give some feedback about the workshop and that kind of thing. So that's pretty much it. That's how it works. I'm gonna go ahead here and stop sharing my screen and pass the ball back over to Gabby so that she can give you some more information, and we can also then get into some additional comments that might be coming from the public.
Thank you, Roger and Eduardo. So we will now open it up for Q&A and dialogue. So if you have currently stepped away from the computer, we do invite you to come back. We have now opened the floor for questions and dialogue. So this is your time to take advantage of the experts on the call. Please remember that if you have not joined the WebEx meeting, you will not be able to access the chat, and you will not be able to speak during the meeting. So if you do want to speak, or if you want to send your questions to the chat, please join the WebEx by clicking on the green WebEx meeting button on the right. We do not have any questions from the participants as of right now, but please feel free to send any of your questions and comments through either the Scout website or the chat box. And I know that one of the frequently asked questions that we do get is if the MTP will address the increasing number of freight trucks on I-10. So either Roger or Eduardo, anyone that can provide an answer for that?
I can take that one. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. The increase in the of freight or in trucks definitely is one of the main concerns that we have here in our region. As we all know, I-10 is our lifeline. I-10 is the backbone of our transportation system. And so it's not only for us that live here in El Paso, but I-10 is a very important trade corridor for the movement of goods east-west. Everything that comes into the state of Texas from the West Coast comes through El Paso. So absolutely, I-10 is one of the most important pieces of our transportation network here locally, and certainly there's a lot of money that goes into it for the maintenance and the improvements within the region of different segments of I-10. So the answer is yes, absolutely. We'll look at freight as one of the main drivers.
Thank you. And if any of the participants do want to speak up, you can do so by unmuting yourself or sending questions through the chat box as well. I know that another question that we do get often as well is, like, what are the upcoming large projects that are going to be implemented in the region?
I guess I'll take that one. The MPO has recently produced a mobility plan that includes some of the most important projects that we have here in the region. So we call that RMS 2020, which is obviously different from RMS 2050. So 2020 showing that it's a short-term plan to implement different projects. So yes, we do have the most important projects and priority projects in that RMS 2020, which are along I-10. TxDOT is currently developing it. They're calling it now Downtown 10, which is a segment that goes pretty much from Executive Center through downtown to somewhere just west of the Spaghetti Bowl. That area is very important in the sense that goes through the downtown area where it really bottlenecks. We have 4 and 5 lanes on both sides of I-10, but only 3 lanes in each direction through downtown. So there's a lot of concerns about congestion in that piece. The other big concern that we have on that project is the condition of all the pavement and structures. The pavement is reaching a point where it's not feasible to maintain it anymore. It has to be rebuilt and reconstructed. So that's going to take quite a bit of money to do. Then the mobility plan also identified the Borderland Expressway, which is used to be called the Northeast Parkway, but it's part of a bypass around El Paso to the north of the metropolitan area that would connect to I-10 in New Mexico through New Mexico 404, and then to making a sort of like a 90-degree turn to the south on New Mexico 213. And then once you hit Texas, it's a new facility, a new freeway that would go sort of like diagonally in a southeastern direction, and then ultimately connecting to Loop 375 very close to Fort Bliss. So those three are, well, those two and also another segment along I-10, which is called segment 3, which is really where segment 2 ends. So roughly around the limits would be somewhere around the Spaghetti Bowl, going eastbound all the way to the airport. That is also a very important piece of I-10 that provides, that's where we have the highest of traffic volumes today along I-10. And it also provides access to the airport, to the Medical Center of the Americas. And so there's a lot of things going on there. It's an old design, so there's a lot of ramps in that section. It creates a lot of friction and the congestion that you see, or that all of us, face when we travel that piece of I-10. A lot of it is because of that old design. Again, it's another expensive project. So those are important projects that are in the mobility plan and will definitely be part of our RMS 2050 Metropolitan Transportation Plan.
Thank you. And we did receive a question. Someone wants to know how many times they can submit the survey.
You should only submit the survey once. Everybody out there should submit the survey one time. We're trying to get the most accurate information we can from your survey. So by submitting it more than one time, it really kind of skews the results. So please just take the survey or the online workshop, give us your responses, and submit them one time, please.
I have a question in regards to the last question that was given in regards to doing the survey once. We do have a lot of our community who does travel in different sectors in itself, whether it's by bus or whether it's by their own vehicle. So how would they be able to transmit their experience, whether if it's in the bus, how they uh, excuse me, my frame of thought is going 1,000 miles an hour.
The best way to go about that is as you go through the survey and the on-demand workshop, it'll ask you for your comments as it relates to different modes of transportation. So if you're having, don't submit the survey twice so that you can get your response to two different modes. It'll allow you to select a mode, provide a comment, and then select a mode and provide a comment. There's plenty of opportunity for you to make sure that you've covered all the bases in taking the survey one time. That's why we have so many. Seems like we're asking that same question, and then we're asking you for your mode and then providing an area map to give us that. But if you notice that you can select more than one answer on those drop-down windows, and you can provide a response to each one of those.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. So hoping there's more questions out there and more comments that we can get. We've got about 20 minutes or so left here. I think it'd be a good idea that we take this time and go ahead and open it up to the public. You guys go ahead and ask your questions. Put them in the comment box. Put them in the chat box. Let us go ahead and try to get to those issues that you might have at hand. So this is a good opportunity for you. Like we talked about earlier, these are visioning workshops. This is the time where we're asking the public to give us that critical feedback. It's early in the process. This is where you're able to really make a big difference in telling us what you think about the current state of the transportation system, what you think the priorities are, and the needs as we move forward. Visioning in the early part of this process is critical, because once we get to future public involvement, we're already coming back and showing you we've developed a plan, draft version of the plan, and this is what we heard from you. And we're going in this direction, and we're moving through the process. So please, right now is a good time if you have anything.
Hey, Roger, at this time, I think City Representative Henry Rivera, District 7, is back on.
Yes, I am. Thank you,
Welcome.
Mr. Carlos.
Yeah,
Thank you. I apologize. I was having problems with the city one, so I had to get into my own iPad here. So thank you for it was a great, the presentation that I did catch was great. This is the one this is phase 1, correct? From art craft down to the downtown area.
Well, there was one of the questions that we were discussing was if there will be, or what are some of the big projects some of the main projects that will be part of the new Metropolitan Transportation Plan. Mm-hmm. So making reference to the projects that are already identified in the mobility plan in RMS 2020, which will obviously be moving forward to the Metropolitan Transportation Plan. So as you know, the top project in priority project in the region is I-10 segment 2, which is roughly between Executive Center, along I-10, between Executive Center and just west of the Spaghetti Bowl.
Okay.
So that's what we were talking about. But again, in this case, it's a Metropolitan Transportation Plan that which is the subject of this public meeting. And as you know, the plan goes into the future for many years, and And this opportunity for public comment is really at the front end of the development of the MTP. So we're looking at right now at more on the establishing what the needs are for in the future for the region. And we're beginning to collect projects from all the different project sponsors. But you know, we're in the preliminary stages of development of this metropolitan transportation plan.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
And thank you for joining us and for participating. So Gabby, do we have any more questions in the chat?
No, we have not received any other question in the chat or through the Scout website, but we still have the time available to answer questions, so please don't hesitate to send your questions, or if you prefer to just speak up, to unmute yourself and provide your comments and questions.
Yeah, it's real important everybody provide your comments here. If you have these comments, we will respond to you. If not here, we'll get back with you. Leave us your contact information. And the other thing that's real important here, talking about some of those projects that are of interest out there, is your opportunity for us to not only hear them and respond here, but we take those comments and we bring them to the policy board as well. All of these comments are kept throughout the process, and as we move down in the future as well. Your comments are important, and they will be recorded, and we will address them, and they will be part of this process. So please, this is a good opportunity early in the process as we go through the visioning for you to give us your feedback.
Another question I know that we do get a lot of on our public meetings is, will the MTP address neighborhood streets or issues like potholes?
Yeah, that's a real common question, and I understand the confusion. The MPO is a regional planning organization. We plan for freeways, the interstates, the principal arterials in general. We're multimodal, transit, pedestrian, bicycle, freight, you know, all of that stuff at that level is what we're really here to address. When it comes to neighborhood streets, you need to get with your local municipality. Those are not really the issues at hand when it comes to the federal funds that we are going to be able to identify for projects at a regional scale, state funds as well, local funds, a lot of different funds go into that. But when it comes to neighborhood streets, potholes and those kind of things, alleys and whatnot, signage, those different kind of things, you know, there's your local municipalities that are better to address those kind of issues. We're really not going to be able to help you a lot with those. Okay, I see we have a little over 15 minutes here. It's a little late to get going into another block of how the on-demand workshop works or the survey, but let's go ahead and please, you know, keep your questions coming, and we'll take the next 15 minutes or so to address those.
You mentioned in regards to federal funds that are coming into the city in its entirety, does that apply to the railroad, or is that something also that we would have to tackle within the city's municipality?
Well, when it comes to the railroads, we do a very close coordination, but you got to understand that we're not, you know, as far as the railroad goes, they have their own planning, they have their own funds, and we do. What I will mention here, though, and an example of that are railroad overpasses. You know, the surface transportation element of where we have conflicts with the railroad traffic, if you will. That's a very good question. Federal funds are available for those kind of projects. We certainly are looking at high priorities as it relates to crossings and the need to provide safe crossings. And those federal funds can be used for those kinds of projects. Now, when it comes to the railroads, we're in close coordination as to what they're doing, the timing of the projects that they're working with. We work very closely with them as well.
Great. So if we are wanting to per se have a quiet zone in our area, who would be our contact? Because I have been following up with quiet zone issue, and I've been kind of hit with the wall. So now that you have brought this up, will I be able to sit down with you and be able to go over this? And what other items will we be needing as a community to be able to make a quiet zone happen?
So quiet zones, this has come up before. We're certainly, open to hearing what's going on there. Certain funds may be eligible for something like that. A lot of the federal funds are geared towards specific types of things. But what's important is as you are working with your local municipality and they're submitting projects to us, that we're making sure that those types of projects are as well provided, and that we can look at them for eligibility and consider those types of projects. A lot of times those kind of projects do get done by the local municipality, depending on where they're at and the issues at hand. Again, though, safety is a major concern when it comes to the railroads. So yeah, with that being said, and then the ability to for the traffic to flow, those are the kind of things we're definitely looking at: accessibility, connectivity, and safety and congestion. If you've got a railroad crossing where the traffic is backing up, certain times a day, and it's creating air quality things. So we're looking at things at a regional level, and when it gets to air quality, especially.
Right. Yeah. Let me add to that. Any concern that you have in terms of a specific need that you see? I mean, definitely make sure that you submit a comment to us, and then we'll make sure that we channel that comment to the appropriate or the potential project sponsor. In your case, you're talking about a quiet zone within the city limits, or where is this?
It is within, I believe, the city limits.
Okay.
I was able to also talk to one of the gentlemen that tend to that whole section up away to, I think you mentioned Houston. So it's all of this area. But the main issue that we're having here in our area is basically that there's numerous times where the train is at a stop and blocks crossings.
Mm-hmm.
They do last anywhere from 20 up to an hour, depending on when they do it. And the other thing too is that since we have 3 main crossings, they have a tendency on holding on horn more so than what it would normally be. So that has been a very big issue that has been brought to my attention, or I have been asked into it.
Mm-hmm.
I have reached out to the railroad in itself, and also looked up in other areas within our own city the same issue and what they did and how they were able to do it. But I was not able to find a direct contact, because that was a request that was made to me by the young lady that I spoke with from the railroad. That's the reason why now that you brought it, the federal issue, that's the reason why I asked in regards to that. So it is very cumbersome, because it will go all the way to our next main, which is North Loop.
Yeah.
The traffic will go all the way there.
Right, right. Yeah, so like Roger said, you know, any project that involves the railroad is a little different because railroads are private companies, right? And not only that, but in most cases, the rail tracks were there before anything else was, and so they own, you know, their right of way, and so you know it is sometimes it is difficult to deal with them or to pay attention. Um, Again, legally, they have all the right in the world to do whatever they want with their right of way, and that's why sometimes it's difficult to negotiate with them because they you know they hold a lot of the cards in their hand. But at the same time, you know, the railroads have been really good partners in for some projects here in El Paso and in other regions as well. So depending on the type of project, depending on the type of issue that you have, you know, we can certainly, you know, try to, you know, you know, bring the railroads to the table to talk, whether it's, you know, in your case, if it's, you know, within the city limits, you know, the city staff or even with your city reps, you know, put together an idea and see how we can address those issues. If it's specifically quiet zones, those may be a little bit difficult to get federal funding for, you know, to establish you know, a quiet zone. But, you know, there's other things that we can help, you know, explore in terms of solving that problem that you have there.
Thank you very much. And I also looked into what's the limitation that the railroad has to be able to block the entrances or block the intersections.
Right.
And most that they're able to do is 10 minutes, because after the 10 minutes, then they get fined. And it is a law, and within their own policies and procedures, it has been brought up on several occasions. So,
right.
And different entities that I have reached out to get more information, that was something that was brought up, that's their standard, and they do get fined if they exceed that amount.
Right.
So I will go ahead and get more information and reach out to you and send it to your comments, so like that what I have you'll already have in the people that I've already spoken with, so that maybe we can work with what we have.
Yeah, so it would be great, and you know, we encourage you to provide that comment in writing and give us a little more details about this, and you know, we will definitely take a look at that and see if we can help.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Eduardo. And we do have a question in the chat box from Veronica Carrillo. She is asking, how is the MPO and RMS 2050 MTP reconciling the need for transportation, getting around, and the need to reduce carbon emissions? Is this a central focus at the MPO, and will it be for the RMS 2050 MTP?
So yeah, I'll go ahead and start with that one. It is a central focus for the MPO and for the development of the new 2050 MTP. We have in place a congestion management process where we need to be looking at how we are getting around town and the need to reduce all kinds of emissions. So with the CMP, before we add capacity to a roadway, we need to be looking at other alternatives and considering, for example, active transportation in conjunction perhaps with transit. And maybe there's a combination of these kinds of things. We don't just take projects and say, okay, well, here comes another added capacity project that's going to add to our pollution problem here in El Paso. We're a non-attainment area, non-attainment MPO, and as a non-attainment MPO, we have this process in place that we must follow, and we do go through that when we consider projects, and we're prioritizing projects as actually part of our project prioritization. So we're looking at multimodal transportation, And because of our air quality and non-attainment status, we also have specific requirements as it relates to emissions that we have to go through a very rigorous process to get air quality conformity. So the more we can do to keep good air quality, the better. So yeah, this is definitely a big thing that we consider as we move through this process.
Roger, let me add something to that. I think the question also raises the very important point in having different goals and multiple goals that interact. And specifically the question is the need for transportation and balancing that specifically with reducing carbon emissions. So yeah, there's always the balance between providing efficient transportation, but being good stewards of the environment, right? Just like safety is also a very important goal. So really, I think all of us somehow, I don't say struggle, but we all have different opinions and different feelings about what is more important, right? But at the end of the day, the the MTP will be a collection of projects that addresses all of these concerns and addresses all of these goals. Now, again, because we all have different opinions and different feelings about what is more important, we're not going to please everybody, right? Nobody's going to be 100% happy yet with a final product, but it is important, and that's part of the discussion, and that's why these public meetings are so important. We need to hear from the public, what is important to you. Some people care more about the environment, some people care more about not being stuck in congestion, and all that. So to continue participating and sending your comments and concerns, to us. So Gabby, do we have anything else, or do you want to go through the announcements?
No, I don't think we have any other questions, but if any other participant would like to speak, we do invite to unmute yourself. If not, we will just go over the announcements shortly. So is there anyone else that would like to speak from the participants before we conclude this meeting?
This is Veronica Carrillo. I just figured it'd probably be faster to make a quick comment. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, absolutely. Go ahead.
Great. Thank you for that answer to my question. I'm very glad to hear that finding ways to get people around town is also being reconciled with the need to lower carbon emissions. I just want to emphasize that while people may have different opinions about transportation and how to get around, what definitely is a fact is that we need to lower carbon emissions. And I'm hoping that mass transit will be a focus at MPO going forward. And perhaps I'll be able to follow up to get some more information about just how front and center mass transit is in your plans for the future.
Absolutely. We
Thank
definitely
you.
welcome that, that feedback and that conversation. I don't want to say discussion, because it really has to be a conversation on how to balance, the need of moving people with, highway improvements, public transportation, and so on. What is also very important is, when you talk about whether it's a highway improvement or public transportation, you're talking more about the supply of transportation, right? How to provide for those needs. But I think another important piece of the question, and especially now under these COVID-19 situations, we haven't talked too much about the demand. How do we control the demand for transportation, right? So that we focus a lot on the supply, building highways or providing transit and all that, but are there ways of trying to reduce the need to travel, right? Again, you know, of course, it happened for the wrong reasons under COVID, but you know, there are. I think we're learning that we don't need to travel as much as we did before COVID hit us, right? Obviously, there's still a need, but I think, you know, there are some important lessons that we all can take from the pandemic and what it did to our travel behavior.
So if we have no further questions or comments, we will like to make some few announcements before we conclude this meeting. We will be having another live workshop July 13th at 1:30 p.m. It will be accessible at the same website as this live workshop was accessible. So please forward it to your colleagues, friends, and family. That way we can have a greater input from the community. The online workshop is available 24/7, and it will be available until July 19th, as Mr. Williams previously mentioned, and it's available at elpaso.scoutfeedback.com. So you can access that as soon as we finish this live workshop, or you can do so later in the week. A survey is available as well for download and printing if you prefer to do the survey opposed to the workshop. It is also accessible on slide 2 of the workshop. And we do want to encourage all the community to continue interacting with us at the MPO. You can do so by joining our Transportation Policy Board meetings. They are open to the public, and we do allow for open comment period, and they happen every third Friday of the month. And we do have all the information about the agendas and the scheduling on our website. So please visit our website for more information. And if you have any questions or comments that you would like to provide in writing, you can also do so by going into our website and clicking on the Contact Us tab in our website, or by calling us at 915-212-0258. We also do have a Facebook and a Twitter. You can find us as El Paso MPO or El Paso Metropolitan Planning Organization. So please follow our Facebook and Twitter so that you can get all the announcements on what's happening at the MPO and all the meetings that we might have in the future. So we do want to thank everybody for joining us today. We do appreciate all the comments we received. We have taken note of them, and we do expect to receive more comments so that we can develop this plan according to the community needs.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for participating.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Godwin, staff. Thank you so much.
Thank you all very much for all of what you presented, and I will be passing it forward to the community so that they can also have some input. Thank
Yes,
you
ma'am.
very much, and may you all have a blessed rest of the evening, and please be safe.
Thank you. You
Thank
too.
you. Same to you all.